Huh. There's something strange about this test. I can't quite put my finger on it. Must just be an effect of the day or something. Oh well, on to the next test. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to PA's Perpetual Testing, day 47. Today we're looking at more of the RCTI, namely Leapfrog, today's episode. Right off the bat, we got quite a bit of acceleration getting us to the other side of the room. I can only assume we're gonna have, some flinging to do here in a second, so let's build up some momentum. Oddly enough, there's another test chamber I did right before this. You guys probably saw it. Don't know what quite led me to want to do that test chamber today, but something was just feeling right about it, so I figured what the heck. I'm still trying to figure out what about these in particular causes such graphical issues, as they appear to always take priority in the visual field of progression, I suppose you might call it. Anyway, let's go ahead and grab this cube really quickly so we can, oh come on, get through right quick. I'm going to need to aim this over that-a-way, so I can redirect the laser through it. Well, it's over here. That's gonna be easy enough, especially with the ability that he has provided me to get over there at this time. However, that is going to be a bit more difficult than I had initially surmised. Okay. What I'm going to have to do, I think, is... oh god, I'm gonna have to fire a portal there as I'm flying through the air with the greatest of ease. If I fail, then that doesn't activate and I don't get in. Okay, so let's just make sure I'm facing the right way. Fling myself sideways. Missed. Damn. Alright, I think I can land this. Just going to take a try or two. I just need to keep facing in the correct direction to be able to land that portal. Yeah, there we go. Got it in one. Now I just need to do what appears to be the exact same thing over here. I'm going to need to perform it twice in a row, and then I'm going to need to get the portals from the other areas to be able to go further. Oh my god, you've got to be kidding me. That has got to be one of the most convoluted ass-backwards ways to get portals through that I have ever seen. But sure, whatever, let's go with it. Can I just drop down to activate that one now? I bet I can. I'll just have to place my blue portal there as I fly. I'll bet I can just sort of sneak around the side here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this should fling me. Holy crap. Okay, I'm gonna have to do it on the second fling here. Should be easy enough. Come on, just real careful like. I can do this. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, now aim the correct direction. Missed it. Damn. Alright, this is gonna take me a try or two, so in the meantime... oh, you've got to be shitting me. In the meantime, just like to talk about a little something I've been noticing about RCTI that I haven't noticed about other test chambers, and just some of my observations in the, I don't know, month and a half of testing I've done thus far. It seems like some of the coolest things I've seen have been tests where I've been forced to think about puzzles in a way that isn't immediately obvious, if that makes sense. Puzzles where my first goal, I suppose, with the test is not... no, not my first goal. Where my first instinct with the test is not the correct solution, which is really some of the more interesting puzzle solving when I need to think outside of my own box. This isn't to say that it's only interesting when there's something that I'm unable to see or unable to figure out, but it's definitely more interesting when I'm forced to think about things in a new way. This is why things that have new sort of mechanics like the Penrose gates or like, oh damn it, like some of the other test chambers that I've done aren't really, or have been some of the most fun that I've had with the game thus far, because things like the Penrose gates present me with something I've never experienced before, or the laser reflection walls that I encountered in the outside room test chamber. Those were pretty interesting as well, and just something I haven't really ever seen before. And that's what makes them unique, that's what makes them interesting. Oh, shit. So, what I've been liking about the RCTI is not that. It's not some of the most fun I've had with the Perpetual Testing Initiative because there hasn't been much new here. They've all been very solid puzzles, and they've been well made, and that's why I like them. I'm still figuring them out, I'm still having the physical challenge, and they aren't nearly as frustrating as they could be. I'd say among the RCTI, this is probably one of the most frustrating thus far. However, one of the great things about this... What in the hell? Do I have to keep a portal... Sorry, just thinking about what I have to do now. I think... I'm going to have to use that little side chamber, I think, to drop down to the next level, unless there's an emancipation grid here. Anyway, first cube first. Going to have to grab this one. Oh, God, that's a bit more complicated than I would have liked. Okay, so I have to drop these down. Is there an emancipation grid down there? Not until the very bottom, looks like. Hopefully there's a portable surface there as well. I don't think there is, though. I don't want to take any chances, so let's just jump off the side with this one for now. Because it's a bit easier than the alternative. Okay. Now, if I can redirect the laser with this one... There we go. I should be able to get back up to the second floor to grab the second cube. And the RC... Where was I at before? This isn't frustrating. This is probably the most frustrating test chamber in the RCTI thus far, just because it relies on that sort of physical prowess that I don't entirely possess. But it's still not frustrating because it's very obvious what I need to do, and everything is very clearly shown to me. The only thing that wasn't was that these cubes would be there, but even then that's easy enough to figure out. You got a hole in the wall, you got something that drops up, the cube's gonna appear there when you press the button. Easy to figure out, easy to execute. But then your problem kind of arises when you're thinking about this sort of test and you go, you know what would make it really difficult? If the player fell into water, if they missed it. And see, that's not the right move, I think. Punishing your players for a mistake is okay, but punishing them in a manner that sends them back unduly is less okay. The RCTI has been really good about making sure that your mistakes are not permanent, which some people say that that detracts from the difficulty, but I don't think so. I think the execution is still the difficulty, whereas it isn't difficult making sure that you die if you fail something. It's difficult in that there's still a puzzle that you can figure out, but you're just going to have to figure it out a certain way. If that makes sense, I really hope that makes sense. Anyway, we're going to go to the next test chamber before I continue this. One moment. Alright, next chamber in the RCTI, Woven Lights, RCTI number 11, and I can immediately see why it's been named that. What the hell? How did you manage this? Immediately, my first question, how the hell did you manage this? I cannot figure this out. There is some means that you used... What's that button do? Okay, that's a bit of a problem. What? Okay. That's interesting. It gives me enough time to get over there to grab the cube, and then it drops the cube in the water afterwards. Very interesting. Okay, so puzzle 1 is actually just physical test. That's perfectly okay. We've encountered physical test puzzles in the past. Oh, shit. I've got to be a bit more cautious. This is less okay. See, what I just talked about in the last test chamber about punishing your players for failure with death, that's not as much of a good thing. If it were just possible to make it so there was an emancipation grid very slightly below this floor, so any falling cubes would immediately fall into the emancipation grid, and then have a floor there and maybe an elevator over here, even put some speed gel around there so we can run around, that would be okay. That'd be better, I think, than punishing your players with death for failure. Because it is very frustrating getting through something only to immediately fall at the next hurdle. And granted, it is entirely possible for me to stay completely safe with this. It's just a matter of the fact that not as safe as it could be, I suppose, would be the way to say it. Now, I've got to figure out a way to get a laser that will be here across all of those with nothing but 2 cubes. Or no, there are going to be 4 cubes. I just have to complete the other parts of the test chamber to be able to reach them. Gotta stay on these crosswalk platforms to make sure that everything is okay. I do like the aesthetic of the chamber, the flickering lights. I have no idea how you pulled it off. I'm assuming some sort of timer, I guess? I mean, I can sort of hear the laser in the background being activated and deactivated very, very faintly. But still, that's extremely cool. It's not something I've ever seen before. So, definitely brownie points for the holy shit. That one. Oh no! Okay, there we go. Barely made it. I will say this is a bit more... I can sort of see the appeal of death chambers, as it were, in the fact that it's a little bit more exciting for the player, but only sometimes. If it's fair and if everything is very, very regulated like this one, it's a bit more easy, I suppose, to accept the possible death scenario. So now I've got to get back out to the center to destroy the turrets by the time that that laser wears off. Which, okay, like just now, did you hear the laser deactivating? You can only hear it on this right side of the room, but it's still effective enough that you can barely hear it, if that makes sense. Now, there we go. I need to go grab the other cubes now that I can get across the area without being immediately lit up by some honorary turrets, but where was I? Talking about good chamber design? And frustrating, because something I touched on very briefly while I was doing the last test chamber and then for some reason immediately moved on from, is that the RCTI is not frustrating. And that's extremely important, I think. Is that while the RCTI can be sort of difficult at times, it always seems very fair. Like, if I make a mistake, it is entirely my error. I don't feel like there are any testing elements working actively against me. And that was a bit of a problem in, admittedly, sorry Paradox, some of your maps were doing this shit. I was a bit too ambitious there. Like, see, I could have planned that. I knew that I couldn't make that, but I got greedy and tried to move forward. And now I need to go grab all the cubes again. Shit. I should have quick saved. Alright, I'll see you all back when I get the 3rd cube again. Actually, I'll just cut to when I get the 4th one. You've seen enough of this. Alright. We've gotten all the cubes and now it's time to continue testing. So, what I was saying earlier about these tests feeling very fair and very balanced, when I say that, more that I've been thinking about while I've been doing the test chamber is not necessarily the fact that it's just that these tests are, you know, simpler and that's what makes them balanced. They use a lot of elements that I'm not necessarily as fond of in my Perpetual Testing series. And yet it still works, and I've been trying to think about why that is, and most of it is because it's fair, I want to say. Although it may not be that these tests are the most difficult, I can anticipate fully where and when these things are going to happen because they're as regulated as they are. I can always tell when these platforms are going to appear and disappear, and I can always tell when I need to kind of get my ass in gear and move out to be able to successfully complete the puzzle. But the problem with a lot of tests that use these same elements that I don't like is that they're not reliable. The death feels cheap and unfulfilling because you know that, or at least you think that it wasn't your fault, and if it doesn't feel like it was the player's fault, then they're going to get a lot more frustrated with the map than I have with this one. Because whenever I've died with this map, I felt that it was my fault. I'd moved too quickly, or I hadn't been paying enough attention to the pattern, or what have you. Also, that's a bit weird. I'm going to have to... I have no idea why that's happening. What the hell? Let me go back and rearrange these lasers a little bit, because apparently it's having some trouble. This is a little bit frustrating. Like, I've successfully completed the puzzle, the laser was definitely on the cube, and now it's slightly off kilter. I don't know why it's happening, but it's slightly frustrating. But you know what? That's kind of less okay. I am going to go ahead and aim the laser back towards me a little bit so I can just aim it securely at both lasers with the final, or both laser acceptance beacons with the final cube. But I'm trying to figure out what caused it to fail in the first place, and I'm not really able to figure it out, which is a bit of a problem in the test itself, but I have a feeling it's more with the physics of the game than the actual test. Still, if you're creating a test chamber, you must take the physics into account, and you need to be able to say, well, there is a possibility that the physics will bug in this way that will cause my test to bug out. And again, that isn't like priority number one for test designers. You want to make sure that you're doing a good test and that you're taking simply the testing elements into account first. But if you ever have something that's taking advantage of physics glitches or physics bugs, that can be a bit more difficult. Oh god, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, I'll see you all when I get to the door. That was really... oh, that was really dumb. That wasn't frustrating, that was just dumb. Here we go. Everything's all nice and organized now, and it's well designed. And that death there, I was so focused on talking that I didn't pay attention to the timings of the bridges, and I died because of it. And that's okay. But if, say, I were relying on those elements to cross the bridges, like those small portal acceptance, laser acceptance nodes, whatever they're called, I still don't know. If those were in charge of keeping the light bridges active and they failed, that would be frustrating because it would feel like the physics of the game were working against me. So, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're designing a test chamber, design it to be difficult but not frustrating. There are a lot of things that do that sort of idea well, and there are a lot of games that do that sort of idea well, just in general, but it seems to be one of the things that people confuse the most often. It is one of the differences between a good game and a bad game, or a good test chamber and a bad test chamber, is whether your player feels like the game is difficult or the game is frustrating. And that's, well, that's one of the reasons that I like this. It's not the most difficult thing. I'd say if I had to give any sort of comparison for the RCTI chambers, it's like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy. It's not the most difficult thing, and you can complete them fairly easily, but they still give you that sense of satisfaction, and you still gotta do them, and it's still possible to fail. But we're not looking at anything that's unnecessarily difficult or unfair. So, that's been my 2 cents for today, so until tomorrow, this has been PA, and I'll see you all when we continue our perpetual testing. Bye!